Okay, now I'm going to just skip over the other parts because it's just basically Abraham talking to God about how he's going to end up having a son even though they're both old. We already know that. But I would suggest reading that anyway because keep noticing the sleight of hand that's going on here. They keep talking about, they said to him, where is Sarah your wife? And then the Lord says, God's going to, you're going to have a child. It's funny how they keep trying to switch between the three men and then the Lord, trying to make it look like they're two separate entities. But as we read on, you're going to see that it's not. All you have to do is go to Genesis 19. It says, now the two angels, actually no, before we even get into that, I want to get into when they start talking about Sodom and Gomorrah toward the end of Genesis 18. I find this really interesting because for all their talk about how you can't question God, you should never try to question him, when God says that he's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because to him they've sinned in front of him and it's a really, it's a very grievous, it's a horrible city, whatever, their sin is very great and I'm going to, destroy them. Abraham goes, how could you do that? He basically argues with God. I found this rather interesting. He basically goes, how could you possibly destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? What if there are good people in there? I'll read right off of here. He goes, says, would you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there were 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing as this, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? I mean, think about this now. Abraham's basically saying, what kind of God are you that you would kill the good with the bad? You can't possibly call yourself righteous if you would do such a thing. I find this really interesting because you'll find a lot of apologetics these days trying to explain why there's still suffering in the world. Well, God has a plan, whatever. Well, according to Abraham, that shouldn't happen. You can't kill the good with the bad. Good people should not be unjustly killed per se. Of course, they try to sneak a way around and say that, oh, there's no good person on earth, we're all sinners, please. Anyways, and also for those of you who are going to be trying to get that whole everyone's a sinner thing, God then goes, well, if there's 50 righteous people in there, I'll spare them. And then he keeps talking them down. That's another thing I find rather interesting. Abraham keeps talking them down. Well, what if there's 45 people in there? You're still going to wipe the place out? What if there's 30? What if there's 25? And they keep it going until they finally agree on 10 people. If he finds 10 good people in there, he won't wipe them out. Now, here's where things get interesting. I just simply mentioned that part because I think it's kind of funny. How this dude's actually able to argue with God over this, and yet these days, with us just simply wondering if he exists, Christians will jump all over you saying, how dare you say that, it's blasphemy. Yet here's one of the greatest people in their religions arguing with the man face to face saying what you're doing is going to be reprehensible. Now, here's Genesis 19. Here's where the sleight of hand that I was talking about earlier comes into play. They go, now the two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. Wait up. When we first read in Genesis 18, it goes, there were 3 men. Now we've already with logic concluded that one of those guys must have been God. Okay? So the other 2 leave and end up in Sodom, which he said he was going to end up destroying. The other 2 must have been the angels, but notice they're not calling them men anymore. Now they're calling them angels. We know these 2 were the guys who were hanging out with God here in the last chapter. But here, instead of saying the men, they're calling them angels. This is not a coincidence. It's once again a little bit of translating sleight of hand that's done to fuck with the reader so that they can't put 2 and 2 together. But to be honest, you'd have to be pretty damn stupid not to see it. Well, let me be fair. You'd have to be pretty blind and not willing to put 2 and 2 together to not see this. It's obvious that the 3 men there are the 2 angels and God. God is later says that he goes on his way, and the 2 angels continue God's work in the next chapter, and they call them angels there. But it's the same dudes from before. They just called them men so that you wouldn't be able to figure out, wait a minute, this is God and 2 angels in human form who are able to eat and drink with one of their servants. This has some major ramifications in the religion if you think about it. The fact that God was able to show up in human form and eat and drink. Number one, it puts that whole phrase in his own image and his own likeness into a whole new perspective for those who do not want to believe that we're supposedly in the same physical form as the Creator. Second, I find it rather interesting that we have an instance here of God coming down to earth in physical form to shoot the breeze with somebody and basically eat and drink a non-kosher meal. Yet when it came time to save his people from sin, supposedly according to Christian doctrine, he couldn't come himself. He had to send his son to die. Anybody else seeing something kind of fucked up about that? When it comes time to saving his own people, because after all, the only way that the whole Jesus sacrifice thing even means anything is if Jesus is supposedly God. That's where this whole ridiculous Trinity thing kind of goes in, because they're trying to make us see that Jesus sacrificing himself only, because it only really works if Jesus himself is divine and willing to take the blame of the entire humanity on himself. That's why they had to link him up as God. But God himself, supposedly, God the Father, had come down to earth before. In fact, he's done it a couple of times. The Tower of Babel definitely comes to mind. He came down to see the tower and stop them from building a tower to heaven. But he couldn't come down to save his own people. It's shit like this that shows how the religion makes no sense when you just sit down and think about it. And just these two little bits of chapters can blow the whole thing open. That's why I picked this for the contest, to get you guys to start reading this stuff so you can go, whoa, this is a valuable piece of information to use. It's also to show you how important it is to actually read their scriptures. It's full of gems like these. And if you're not reading them, you're missing out on some valuable weapons. Read these books. As, again, Scott Baio's Dead had PM'd me before, no one knows the Bible as well as atheists, or at least skeptical people who are able to read it as is. You will find a lot of BS artists who keep telling you, no, you're twisting the words around, or you don't have God in your heart, so you don't have the real meaning. It's another way of saying you're not allowing yourself to, you're not bullshitting yourself about the words on the page. When you don't bullshit yourself about the words on the page, you see tons of gems like these. It's funny how if this wasn't the Bible, if this was some other literary work, anyone would be agreeing with me about these contradictions. But because it's the Bible, somehow they're going to say that you're wrong for pointing these things out. Still, this is just to show you how important it is. So, I hope this little bit of a contest was educational for you guys. I also hope that you guys see the importance of picking that book up. Follow their advice. Follow the fanatics' advice. Go ahead, read the Bible. They're going to wish they never uttered those words the next time that you go into a debate if you do like they ask. So, anyway, and by the way, for those Christians who aren't fanatics who are watching this, I hope this will get you to really take your Bible and look at it in a critical eye. I'm not saying this so that you guys can leave your religion. That's not what this is about. What this is about is you guys understanding your faith. You can't really say you know all there is to know about your faith if you've never really looked at the book that your faith is supposedly founded upon. Read the Bible as it is. See what's actually in there and make up your own mind about it. But don't bullshit yourself about what's actually in the books. Don't go by what other people are trying to teach to you what's in there. Read it for yourself and use your critical thinking skills. You know, the same critical thinking skills that you use to survive day to day, that helps you to pay your taxes, that helps you to figure out whether somebody's conning you or not when you're trying to buy a car or to buy an appliance or something. Use those same critical thinking skills when you're reading that book. It's you have to decide. Let's say that there really is such thing as heaven and a soul and all that. Are you trying to tell me that the same critical skills that you're going to be using in life to keep you alive, you're not going to use for the benefit of your own soul? This is your soul, obviously, that you guys are worrying about. When that's why you believe in your religion. Shouldn't you make sure that it makes sense? That's all I'm saying. See what's in there. Anyway, thanks for the people who participated in the contest. I hope it was educational. I hope it gets you guys to start looking in that book and seeing the little gems in there. I'll get started right away in sending out the prizes. And again, thanks for helping me to reach 1,000 subs. I will see you guys later.